A very dear friend and subscriber to the podcast, they sent in an article and asked me to please review this article. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. The title of the article is Why Your Scrum Teams Are Failing, the Hard Truth That Nobody Wants to Admit. So I'm going to take a look and see where I stand on this topically and see if I can add some context to it or my thoughts. They did ask me to do it as a blind read. So for those of you who knew what that means, is this is going to be the first time that I've read this article. So I'm going to read the article with you and give you my thoughts. So let's get started. Let's do it. In 2017, Agile was presented to me as the ultimate project management approach, promising productivity, transparency, and value delivery in short bursts. However, many teams struggled to effectively implement and scale Scrum, missing the mark on its potential. Let's stop right there. So I'm happy that someone finally got around to introducing you to this in 2017, considering that it's been around since a lot longer than that. But when people come in making promises about productivity, transparency, etc., what comes to mind is Jeff Sutherland, twice the work in half the time, 1,800% increase in productivity. And he has evidence that, anecdotes and evidence that show that this is true for the teams that he's worked with. While I'm a big fan of data, if someone asks me what does Scrum promise or what does Agile promise, for me the promise would be focused on something different. My promise would be that if you use an Agile approach, that you're going to have faster time to market, that you are going to receive greater feedback and have a more frequent opportunity to inspect and adapt, and that you're going to be able to have increased quality for whatever product or service that you're building. Sometimes it might cost more. I know that sounds crazy, but it could, right? Because you may produce something, then realize you don't need it, and reproduce something else to replace the thing that you originally produced. But it's better in the end to have the right impact and to have the right consumer engagement than it is to build the wrong product. And I think this is where people start getting confused about whether or not Agile is effective, right? So right away, leading out with you were disappointed when it missed the mark on its potential. I think that you're giving it a black eye before you're giving it a chance. But let's continue. Waterfall was declared a relic of the past, outdated, painfully inefficient, and completely incapable of keeping up with demands of modern projects. That's also not true. What I can tell you right now is the PMP and a waterfall process, as per Winston Royce, is designed to take small, repeatable efforts and make it possible for you to build those types of products or projects and do it with a very efficient, effective way that eliminates a lot of waste and gives you a system of record. And I'm not opposed. I will go as far as to say that I think sometimes people forget that the PMP is the gold standard for project management certifications. Does it mean it's always 100% correct? No. Does it mean it's always perfect? Absolutely not. Does it mean there's still a long way to go? Absolutely. But what I'm trying to say here is I think that we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater and making a lot of large swath statements here. So let's see where we go. I'm going to continue. It's a short article, so I'm interjecting as I go. The question wasn't which approach was better, but rather why teams were failing to embrace the very solutions meant to propel them forward. Good question. By 2024, I had worked in several industries, organizations, projects, and teams, and had seen the Scrum framework applied seamlessly, but also watched many willfully fail. It became clear success wasn't just elusive, it was being actively sabotaged. Then it hit me. Teams aren't missing the mark. They are doing everything spectacularly, with asterisks, wrong. Okay, I'm going to pause there. So, to come in hot and then say by 2024 you worked, so over 7 years you worked in multiple industries, all kinds of organizations, all kinds of projects. I think that there is a symptom here that you're not discovering. And to protect the author, I'm certainly not going to say the name of the author here. But what it sounds like to me is an improper implementation of governing and managing work, and the teams are failing because the work wasn't properly managed, and that lies on the Scrum Master to make sure that people have the right connectivity. Okay, let's continue. I'm not going to go down this path because I want to see where she takes it. So imagine cracking open your IKEA box, bracing yourself to assemble a new bed, and instead you're greeted with a single image of the bed, like a holy relic. No instructions, no parts list. It's as if IKEA said, here's what it could look like, buddy. Now go summon your inner engineer and figure it out. Bon appetit, you do-it-yourself genius. I can tell you right now, I've never felt that way. But anyway, let's continue. The Scrum framework is, in simple terms, a glorious illustration of collaboration, adaptability, and iterative progress. No pun intended to Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland. I don't know if there's a pun there or not. Okay, maybe I missed a pun. It doesn't tell you how to tailor it to your industry, your organization, your project, or your team. So guess what? You must make it fit. Yes, that's right. You need to take charge and you need to own it. You need to build it yourself. Okay. Scrum, you just said, was meant to be adaptable. Now you're complaining because it's a DIY project. Here's what I can tell you. Now, I'm not trying to shock you. I'm not trying to call you out. I received my first Scrum certification from Ken Schwaber in 2003, and I was unknowingly doing Agile before 2003. So let me give you a little bit of information here. I never want to call someone out, but what you've published here is contradictory to itself, right? So I have over 22 years applied Agile effectively in just about every genre. And I'm knocking on wood. To date, I have never had a team or an organization go through all the pain that you've described in this article. For me, it's been pretty clear and pretty simple. And when you go in and you adapt the framework instead of treating it like a process, I think that the anecdote here is that this person is looking for a checklist. Here are the 8 things that you need to do, right? Now, confession, I did come up with something called the Agile 12-step program. And in that program, it tells you the first 12 things you can do so that you can see change in the organization and move it in the right direction. And then at that point, the last instruction, step 12, says you need to adapt and adjust and mold this and find the next 3 things you need to do to help make the organization continue to do forward progress. Now, that's interesting because what it's saying is, hey, here are some other things you could pay attention to help you get moving. But then once you got these things going and you're moving in the right direction, then it becomes your responsibility. You, Miss IKEA purchaser, need to take it out of the box and figure out what needs to be done next. I think the instructions don't come with the furniture because in this case, you have the option to make the furniture fit 5 or 6 different applications. For example, instead of comparing it to IKEA furniture, I would liken it more to a closet organization system. You know you're going to have some places for shelves. You know you're going to have some places for hanging clothes. You know you may even have some drawers if it's fancy or a counter. But the point I'm trying to make is you have to decide with the space that you have how it's going to fit. But there are some basic things you need to do in order to support the bar that's hanging across for your hanging clothes, right? So it's one of these things where it's a combination of the things that you need to do in order to make it work and the adaptability to make it fit the organizational structure that you're trying to fit it in. It's going to be completely different for people who are building services in the entertainment industry, the NBC Universals, the ABC Disneys. It's going to be different for those people than it would be for people who are in healthcare or finance or banking, right? So what you're going to see is if you hire a Scrum Master, the Scrum Master shouldn't just come in with the letters behind their names. I mean, I offer the certifications, and I'm saying this, right? Especially the initial certifications, the level 1 certifications, they're great, but you can't really tell how much someone knows about it until you get them under the umbrella. The other piece of this that's really interesting is when you bring people in from different organizations, even if they have super successfully implemented Scrum or Agile somewhere else, it doesn't mean that they're going to walk into your organization and have the same results. So I think what I'm trying to say is there is no one-size-fits-all Scrum Master. Scrum Masters are not spandex. It's one of these things where fundamentally they should know how to apply Agile in any organization, and then they need to take that step 12 and tweak it to work where it is. And in closing, this person said it's not enough just to hire a Scrum Master to enforce the framework. You must clearly document how Scrum will function within your team to ensure everyone has a unified understanding, and it aligns with your industry, organization, and project objectives. This is the foundation for scaling Agile effectively and driving true results. Okay, so I'm going to say that, this isn't even scratching the surface on scaling. But what it does tell you is the last part of the article is probably the most correct. When you do hire a Scrum Master, you have to take several things into consideration. It's way more than just the letters. But I think at the end of the day, if you know that you are trying to build a specific product or service and you have goals set and the team organizes around those goals in sprints, and you have a product owner that creates and refines a well-defined product backlog, you are going to have success with whatever type of product you're building. That's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have something you want us to talk about, learn more at AgileDad.com. Thanks again for sending me this article. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Do take care.